So, is the X8SIL NAS Killer combo version 1 still relevant in 2019? Um, Long story short, yes. It's a great motherboard still. It's still available somewhat, although I don't think we'll ever see it down to the prices that it was before. The combo, if just to refresh your memory, or if you haven't seen or read anything about this, um, it came at, I think it was $60 for an Intel X3470, 8 gig of RAM, and the motherboard, as you see here, it's the X8SIL from Supermicro. It's a micro ATX board. As far as server motherboards go, it's pretty fully featured. It's got 3 PCI Express, X8 physical. Looks like 2 are X4 and 1's X8. And the nice thing is that the top X8 has a cutout, so you can fit a full-size graphics card in there. Hopefully this camera will focus on that. But yeah, this is also the motherboard I use for the $115 budget gaming build. I always have a couple of these guys around. It's just a nice motherboard to have. But the X3470 is still a really capable processor. I'm sure a lot of improvements have come down the line from Intel since then. And I mean, it's a 3.6 gigahertz turbo, quad core with hyper-threading. I've upgraded this board to have 16 gig of RAM. So we've got 4 gig sticks. And if I recall correctly, you can do up to 32 gig. So, I mean, that's pretty nice. And it's DDR3 ECC registered, so it's pretty cheap. It's got 4 SATA, dual NIC in the back. Although it has no onboard audio, and unfortunately, you only have 2 USB ports here, but you have PS2 for mouse and keyboard if you want to use those. But, I mean, you can always add a 4-port or 5-port USB 2.0 card via this regular PCI. I mean, it's honestly still one of my favorite builds. And like I said, I have 2 or 3 of these around still. We're going to a LAN party, the moderators and the trusted group in the Discord. We're going to a LAN party in the beginning of March. And I think we're going to set up a couple of these with like RX 480s and GTX 1060s and just show people what budget gaming PCs can do. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to have some footage from that and stuff. But honestly, if you're still looking for a cheap NAS and you're going to do like maybe an 8-bay from Cooler Master, like the N400, the X8SIL is still a good way to go. You can go for an X3430, which I think is a 4-core without hyper-threading. Could be wrong on that, but basically like an i5 equivalent. And you could save a little bit of power doing that. X3470's still got, pretty solid pass mark. It's like 6K pass mark, just about. So you can do a couple transcodes if you're doing Plex, run a couple of VMs, things like that. Yeah, I mean, there's just not a whole lot to say about this board. I got a couple questions saying, is this still the way to go or whatever? If you're going to do a small form factor NAS, I think it's a totally viable option. Otherwise, you're looking at more expensive options. I thought I had something around in the room here, but I mean, a micro ATX NAS setup would probably be less powerful if you got one that was out today. You'd probably spend about $200 on just the board, processor. I mean, 16 gig of DDR4 is like, I think it's around $130. So, I mean, 130 in RAM is just nuts. 16 gig of DDR3 ECC is only about I mean, at worst, probably like $40. So, I mean, if you're just using it for a NAS, DDR3 versus DDR4, you're not going to notice a difference. It's storing files, serving out files. That's not really going to impact you at all. So yeah, there is one more processor you can upgrade past the X3470. It's the X3480. Typically, I would say it's not worth it. It's only like a one step increase from the X3470. What else is there to say about this guy? I know people that have this running, and they've had it running since we did the NAS Killer V1, which is over a year ago, and they've had it running, and it's running solid, and they've expanded and they've added a DAS, direct attached storage via external SAS. So you throw an external SAS card in here, build a DAS box, and then you have way more drives, drive support. So you can add 16, 24, 48 drives if you want. There's really no limit as to what you can do with this board except for the PCI Express expansion, which you only have 3, whereas you'd be expecting maybe between 6 and 8 on a full size board, like a full EATX board or one of the larger EEATX X9 DRIs or something like that. But again, if you're doing a micro ATX NAS, or you want something low power, simple, easy to use, low cost, take a look at the X8SIL. It's a really good combo. I'm going to have the $115 budget gaming PC video linked in the description. And hopefully in the future, there's another board that's kind of similar to the X8SIL. It's called the X9SCL. I'm looking for that one to drop in price because that's a couple generations newer. I think it still uses... Let me look it up right now. So the X9SCL is 1155 socket, not 1156. So it's the first gen Xeon E3s, so like the E3 1200 and E3 1200 V2, as well as second and third gen i3, i5, and i7. It's also DDR3. It's unbuffered only, so that's kind of a downside to that. It's gonna be a little bit more expensive than just regular registered RAM, and up to 32 gig of RAM. It does have the capacity to use DDR3L, which is low voltage. That's nice. And it has a few more SATA. But it also has... Let me see if I can blow this up and I'll show it on camera. Sorry about that. So you do have 3 PCI Express, and I don't think any of them have a cutout, so there is that, but you have 6 SATA 3. So hopefully that board will drop in price soon. The camera's not the easiest thing to do here. Hopefully that board will drop in price soon, but I'm not holding out for it or anything like that. The X8SIL is just, I mean, again, it was $60 for the whole combo, motherboard, RAM, CPU. All you had to do was add a CPU cooler, and you get like a 400 watt power supply from EVGA, and it's like $15, and you have a NAS up and running for like $135 or less. So I think maybe in the next year or something, we'll start to see the X9SCL, other similar boards like that drop in price, hopefully. So yeah, again, this is still a great motherboard. If you're in the market for the X8SIL or a cheap NAS, take a look at it. You're going to see a lot more performance for your money, and even just flat out performance, than you would see from a Synology NAS. Those are still using Intel Atoms low power Celerons, things like that, this will blow them out of the water. I think the top line Synology is only running about 2,500 pass mark, where this is running well over double that. Sure, it's going to take a little bit more power, but if you're spending $500 or $600 on the Synology, you could spend a third of that on the X8SIL plus, a fully built system, and then you'll have a little bit more control over your hardware. You'll have much more performance, and overall, just a better system. You can say you've built it yourself, and yeah. Not to mention all of the Synology failures and power supply issues that people have been reporting. And if you want any more information on that, you can go look at Gamers Nexus's video on Synology, and a few other YouTubers have done it too. So if you have any questions about this board, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to link an eBay description if there is, any of these available. I'll try to find some and link them in the description as well. And for any of the other links and resources I've talked about, they will all be in there too. So again, if you have any questions, give me a shout. Come join us on the Discord. Thanks to everyone that's supporting me on Patreon. And I'll see you guys next time.